What have you done at the clinics you've worked at?
Currently, I'm a veterinary assistant at Armadale Animal Hospital, so there, the main thing I do is I check in patients into rooms, get a history from the owners, kind of see what's going on with the animal and why they're there, and then I'll go communicate that with the vet, and I'll drop all the vaccines and do any blood work that needs to be done. I will then go into the room with the vet and help restrain the animal, get a temperature, heart rate, all that kind of stuff on it. I also help prepare for surgeries by sterilizing surgical packs, and I'll help set up for the surgeries that they do there. I also do laser therapy treatments there, which is something cool because not all veterinary hospitals have that. So it's a cool experience to see how that helps the animals, and I fill prescriptions. And then this past summer, I worked at a vet hospital in Ocean Isle Beach, and the vet there was really awesome. She let me actually assist in a decent amount of surgeries, like neuters, spays, even a foreign body. I got to see a splenectomy. She let me do a couple of dentals because they did treatments on shelter dogs there. So they thought it was appropriate if I would practice it on the shelter dogs, obviously before the client's dogs. But yeah, so that's what I've done so far.
Have you ever castrated an animal?
Yes, like I said, I assisted with it in dogs and cats at the clinics I have worked at and currently work at. And I also am currently a volunteer at the swine unit here at the state, and we castrate dozens and dozens of pigs every 3 weeks. So at first it was a little bit, overwhelming because the pigs are awake and the dogs and cats obviously are under anesthesia and the pigs are screaming. So it's a little hard to deal with at first, but once you do a couple, you kind of get used to it, and you get a ton of practice at the unit since you're there doing it on dozens of pigs all the time.
If you were an employer, how would you handle a situation dealing with unacceptable behavior by an employee?
I would first sit down with the employee and explain to them that what they're doing is it's both harming our practice, our reputation, and it's obviously making the clients unhappy. So I would first give them a warning, and then if they continue to do it, I would really have no other option but to terminate them from their position, because you can't really have someone that's a liability for an animal if they're not doing their job correctly. That's obviously not safe for the animal.
How will you decide which vet school to go to?
So obviously vet school is a ton of money. It's a big financial commitment. So money is a big factor, but there are things you can do to diminish the cost of more expensive schools by applying for scholarships and working throughout vet school, working before vet school. So I would first look at the schools that I could reasonably afford, and then I would compare how they rank and see what kind of classes they offer, what focus areas they have available at that school, and kind of go from there. And also, what year they start surgery is a big factor, because I obviously want to have the most experience with that possible by the time I start clinical, so it's not as stressful when you start clinical.
What will you do if you don't get into vet school?
So if I don't get in the first time, I plan on figuring out what the main factor was why I didn't get in. So if I needed more experience in a different area, I would go ahead and get that, whether it be large or exotic animal. And I would do that for a year and then reapply. Or if I needed to raise my grades, go to grad school and do that. If after, I would say, like 2 or 3 times of doing that, I still don't get into vet school, I would probably go to grad school and get a PhD in nutrition and work for a feed company formulating diets for different animals.
How much time do you spend studying?
I spend a decent amount of time studying. I do have pretty good time management skills, but I would say I treat the week like it's a 7 job. So I'll do the vast majority of my schoolwork during the week, and then on the weekends I'll kind of treat it like a part-time job. So if I had to say, I'm studying probably like 4 or 5 hours a day during the week, and then on the weekends about 2 or 3 each day.
What do you think of euthanasia?
Euthanasia is obviously a touchy subject with a lot of people, but I feel like if there's nothing else you can do for the animal, then it's not worth them suffering. So if you've done everything you can, it's not really fair to keep that animal alive and suffering if the animal's not doing well. I feel like that should kind of be a last resort. It should be, you should try everything you possibly can as long as the owners are willing to do it, because some of them do have financial constraints, but as long as you've done a decent amount that's not like too crazy out there, then it's in the animal's best interest. Likewise, if an animal has a ton of behavior issues where they're so scared that they become aggressive towards everyone, it's not fair to keep them being that scared all the time, being around people. So if you try training that animal to, kind of teach them it's okay to like people, they're not going to hurt you, then and it works, then you don't need to do euthanasia. But if you try that for months on end and the animal's not making any progress, then it's not fair to keep them suffering like that.
Who do you turn to if you are stressed?
So I turn to my best friend from home, and I feel like I talk to her because she's also she takes on a lot at a time, so she understands what it's like, and she also focuses about her grades a lot. We're just alike in many different ways. I will also call my parents because they kind of calm me down and they say, you've been through this before and you made it out just fine. Everyone goes through times where they're stressed, and yeah, I feel like just really having a good support system of friends and family is the best thing that you can have when you're stressed.
If you simply can't get everything done, what do you do?
So there are times when you can't do everything. So I prioritize, and the first thing I do is I look at any commitments that I have. So if I already said that I would work on a certain day, then those people are relying on me to be there, so I can't call off from that job or that responsibility. So I make myself be there, and I have to, if it means losing a couple of hours of sleep that night to study for a test, that's what I have to do. And then if I just have multiple schoolwork things to do in one night, and they're all due that night, or I have a test in the morning, I have to look at which one carries the most weight, and also which class I need to do the best in, depending on my current grade in that class. So I think prioritizing is the main thing that you can do.
What other kinds of jobs can you get as a veterinarian?
So as a vet, you can go into private practice with large animals, small animals. You can also specialize in multiple different things. You can go into the military, helping with the search and rescue dogs over there and bomb detection dogs. You can go into research and help develop new treatments and find new breakthroughs in both human and animal issues. You can go into pharmaceutical and help try to find new drugs that'll save lives of, again, both animals and people. You could be a professor at a college or at a vet school, and you can also do a combination of those things. So lots of professors at vet schools will also be doing research.
What effect will global warming have on veterinary medicine?
So global warming would obviously kill a decent amount of animals in the Arctic, and so that would hurt the ecosystem because everything kind of relies on one another, and so it would affect essentially pretty much every animal in some way or another. And if you were an exotic vet that only worked in the Arctic and then global warming melted all those ice caps and, for example, polar bears and penguins went extinct, then you would kind of be out of a job. Also, with warmer weather brings more parasites and that kind of stuff, so you're going to see a lot more diseases in your practice.